The sun blazes over the Imperial Palace in Kyoto, its rays illuminating the armor of the Emperor's retainers. He is pleased. The covert efforts, the whispers in the shadowed corridors, the coded missives have borne fruit. China is now a vassal. The dragon is caged and its resources flow into Japan's hungry maw.
We have eliminated all opposition and have seized control of the Pacific Rim. The time to strike is now.
And so the Emperor's eyes look beyond the horizon. The Spanish colonies in the Pacific Rim are entangled in a war with France and are ripe for the taking. Europe could not spare a glance for the Pacific, and Japan's audacity will go unnoticed, a serpent gliding through the waves. The Pacific churns with the thunder of steel. The age of dreadnoughts has dawned, a new era where battleships will rule the waves. Japan, having absorbed China's resources, now stands poised to reshape the world, and it doesn't intend to play by the rules. As the sun dips below the horizon, the Mediterranean shimmers, a canvas for destiny. The Emperor's gambit has begun, and the world watches, torn between awe and fear. And our first strike shall be Majorca. We will have a foothold in the Mediterranean, and we have secured a temporary alliance with the Italians to do such a thing, resupply our fleets. This is the new battleship of the line, a 26,000-ton, 24-knot monster for the year, fitted with, I believe, 10 8-inch batteries aside, as well as 6 13-inch guns. I had planned on putting more on her, and we are going to build an absolute lot of them. Lots and lots and lots of Yamato 1905s. They will be the standard ship. They will make up the bulk. I'm looking to build about 30 of them. Either squadrons of 6 or squadrons of 4. We're not sure yet. And a couple in reserve or on repairs. Refits, that sort of thing. We still got the old battleships. The Yamatos are coming shortly. The plan is to build a navy where the battleships are just the centerpiece. They're the show pony. They're the thing that projects the power, but the real killing will happen with our smaller fleet. We are going to push for very, very strong destroyers, very, very strong support cruisers, where they can work by themselves. They don't even need a battleship on the deck to beat a fleet. That's my goal, and the way to do that will be torpedoes. If you haven't watched the earlier episodes, you will see that we've been experimenting with torpedo tactics, and we're yet to perfect them. But I'll leave you with the live commentary from this battle. Enjoy! We've been chasing this one Spanish fleet for months, while the rest of the Emperor's fleets and task force head up the Red Sea. We're currently about to invade Sudan, and the idea there is to take a port that controls the Red Sea. And if we control the Red Sea, we control the shortcut to the Pacific for the European powers. And so they will have to go around Africa, or worst case scenario, around South America to get to the Pacific, which will give us lots of time. The Spanish haven't been able to react to our attacks on all of their holdings. They are embroiled in a huge war with France at the moment. And the French did take the last region in China, so we're sort of pretending like we're working with the French. You know, you took China, we took the rest of China, that's okay, we're friends. So we've attacked all of the Spanish holdings. They fell without an issue. We own most of the Pacific Rim. And so I think Japan's home islands are fairly secure. We have the first wave of Yamatos under construction, which I'm very excited to see those. They have an absolute buttload of 8-inch guns, including casemates down in the Dreadnought hull. And I've made that one nice and heavy so that it can one day hopefully hold bigger guns or more of them. I did hope for 8 13-inch guns, but displacement meant that we had to go with 6 13-inch guns, and they are the higher tech ones. But anyway, back to the battle at hand. This force here is short on destroyers and torpedo boats, as they are with our main task force heading up the Mediterranean. So we have to go the old school fleet engagement here. We've got the Nyoto class light cruisers going to screen. And we have a Spanish battleship. So this will be our first fight with the European powers. The Chinese weren't really any contest for us. They had poorly designed ships, not well armed. Shoot them a few times and they sink. We'll see if the Spanish can build a better fleet. A bit of a hodgepodge for our battleships. We've got a couple of different classes here, varying between 10 and 15,000 tons. The original Kumano class, as well as the newer, heavier 15,000 tonner Soryu class and the Heisen class. I've been experimenting with the different hulls. So I intend to make a ship with every hull that's available, as this is my first time playing. And we'll see what sort of monstrosities we can build. Got the heavy cruisers. They are just really miniature battleships. Exactly the same design as our battleships, just small and lightly armed. We're keeping them out the back because they're not very seaworthy. So far we've had a few hits on the Spanish, but nothing major. It looks like the Spanish here have low fuel. So their ships are traveling pretty slow. So we definitely have an advantage. And we're still suffering from the older gunnery technology, so we're going to have to sail steady and true to get any real hits. Yeah, the Spanish are out of fuel. We've choked their supply lines. They don't have any colonies now in the Pacific. And this task force has been running around for months. We've been trying to lock them down. Heavy cruisers also have torpedoes on board, but they are very short range. They haven't seen a refit pass yet, so they're still running on 1890 technology. After this battle, we'll be looking at refits and designing new ships. We need to design a destroyer, and we need to refit the battleships to have better guns. Alright, first major hits. The light cruiser at the lead formation. We've got the battleship San Josef. The absence of torpedo boats will make this a slower and steadier pace battle. Making sure to keep those light fleet elements away from our own battleships. Our light cruisers are 5-inch armed light cruisers. As many guns as I could fit on them. They're pretty much at optimal range now. But we are running faster. If any of our battleships take damage, we'll drop smoke there to obscure the battleships. We'll get the heavy cruisers to come down the other side and try and envelop them on the left wing. We've got the main guns from the battleships targeting the Spanish battleship, and their secondaries are targeting the closest light cruiser. Most of my battles have been fast-paced because we've been using the torpedo boat spam. Or we've been able to intercept the enemy first and do a walloping to them before they can respond. This light cruiser's done for the Fernando El Catalico. Who knows what that says? Catalico. Looking good, looking good. We've got low fuel too. That's why these things are moving so damn slow. 14 knots. I could have sworn that they were just in the supply depot. Maybe they have a much shorter range. I didn't really pay attention to the range when I built the heavy cruiser. think it sits about midway on the slider. Our battleships and light cruisers are fine. Just the heavies. So I will need to pay attention to that. And that's partly one of the reasons why I agreed to invade Sudan, so we had a supply depot as well as a way to blockade the Red Sea. But the Italians accepted an alliance with us, or we sort of got forced into it because our reputation went to 100, but I'm going to make the most of that. So the lead element of our fleet is going to attack Majorca. And once we have that island, we will have a supply depot in the Mediterranean, and we'll have power projection in the Mediterranean. That's going to piss off the Europeans, I think. Despite it formerly being a Spanish island, I don't think France and Italy are going to like us having a battleship station right there. I do wonder, will the game descend into a world war where we just fight everybody? Or is it going to be just one nation at a time, depending on how your reputation goes? I'm a little bit sad that you don't have much control over the politics in the game. If I had my way, I would just declare war on everybody and see if I could survive. We're pretty much battering them into submission very slowly. We have an insane amount of hits compared to the Spanish. They've hit us 4 times. And we have over-penetrations, partial penetrations, blocks. Really, they're just not putting up a fight. Could bring the light cruisers up the right wing. See, the Spanish battleship's just taken 43 hits. And he's done no damage. Battleship's turning around about. Do the same with their light cruisers. Keep the screen up. Try and keep the fleet away from our battleships. Crazy looking ship, but it's all we had to work with. We will build something that looks a little bit more historical at some point. Keeping them away from us. They're not really moving. We only have to turn about and we already got speed on them due to their low fuel. Try and tighten up the formation of light cruisers. Going for the armor piercing. Bracketing that battleship. No effect. Satellite is sinking. Battleship's taken a big hit from the armor-piercing 13-inch. 12-inch rather, sorry. Heavy cruiser San Martin at the lead of this formation is sunk. Good job by the heavy cruisers, who are themselves running just as slow. We are almost in torpedo range. We only have underwater launchers on those ships though. Single tubes. Light cruiser sunk. I think once these guys have finished fighting these Spanish, we might send them up to the Mediterranean as well. These are kind of the least best ships in my fleet. They're all cadets and green, so I left them behind to fight the Spanish. But once this fleet's dead, we literally don't have anything to threaten us that's not going to take 6 turns to get to us. Even longer when we take the Red Sea. Four 8-inch guns on our heavy cruisers, as well as small secondaries. Light cruisers are... the gunnery's not that great. They've only got 4 hits. I think they're doing a good job of aggroing the light cruisers. Because they are out of fuel, we are running our fleet faster than cruise speed, so we can stay out of punching range. Yeah, we got some hits there on the secondary tower, on the Hosho. Light cruiser taking penetrating fire through the hull. Big fan of 8-inch secondary guns, so a lot of my battleships will have that as standard. And we'll leave the light fleet with the lighter weapons, and their job will be to shoot at lighter ships. Our battleships will just be able to cream heavy cruisers and light cruisers. That's the goal. Come on, Spanish! Where's this famed fighting skill? Spaniards were the bane of my existence in Age of Sail, the British campaign. Good opponents. Battleship's done for. Everyone's sinking. Oh, well, actually, it's not true. I do have threats remaining in the Pacific, and that would be the Russians, who we've sort of had terrible relations with the whole time. But they're in a sort of precarious position as well, because they have the Black Sea Fleet, they have the Baltic Sea Fleet, and then they have a small, I guess you could call, fleet garrison up at Vladivostok, which sails around and just annoys me by its presence. They are in a precarious position that if we went to war with the Russians, with our position already about to be cemented in the Mediterranean, we could blockade the Black Sea Fleet. We could blockade Gibraltar so that the Baltic Sea Fleet would still have to sail around Africa. And if they somehow made it through Gibraltar, they would have to fight our fleet that we will station in the Red Sea. So I think the Russians need to go. We could get some real. We could get, Vladivostok. That would be great. The islands north of Japan. I can't remember their name. It starts with S. That's always been contested. That boy is in big trouble. Heavy cruiser line passing in front of our light cruisers. And really, the Spanish have posed no threat to us at all. But this is the kind of slow gameplay you will expect if you want to play gun fleets. A lot more methodical play. A lot slower paced. Highly reliant on accuracy. I'm sure if these guys actually had fuel, they would have been much more of a threat. Able to get in our face, but at this point... It's like a tall man fighting a child. Just plant your hand on their forehead and let them swing as much as they want. Ooh. Hits there on Kawachi. Through the tower. Small fire. Spanish fleet have been split in two. Let's send the cruisers all together and the battleships can finish off their targets. That guy's not going anywhere. His engines are done for. We should be able to chase them down fairly soon. Keeping in mind these cruisers might have torpedoes, so we need to be mindful of that. But even at 16 knots, we're still faster than them. Can't wait to build like a 35 knot cruiser or a 40 knot destroyer. Watch the Dreadnoughts just be like, what? Battleship Kawachi managing to get that fire under control. As I said, all these guys are cadets. These battleships were built fairly recently, but they didn't see much combat because they were just blockading the Chinese ports. And the Chinese Navy didn't exist anymore. So they've shot a few transports. But that's hardly combat. And still, I'm not spending much money on our training budget. Simply because I can't justify the spending. We'll get our experience through war. Alright, the escaping light cruisers have gone to smoke, so we can no longer shoot at them. Battleship line is cutting off the cruiser, coming across the bow. His chance to hit will be lower now, but if we do penetrate, it'll be massive damage through the bow. Got flooding happening. Fitted with 8-inch guns. So if they get too much closer, their guns will be a little bit more dangerous. Big hits there with a high explosive. And as the sea mist rolled in, the brutal beating that the Spanish were taking was stopped by the weather. A few of the remnant fleet managing to escape. It was at this point that we realized that supply will be an option for certain classes of ships, and we would need to keep that in mind if we're going to build a world navy. The conquest of Sudan was a success, and now we have a blockadable port in the Red Sea. After taking Majorca, the Japanese decided to press their advantage and push western Spain. The French had just taken southern Spain, and so it seemed appropriate. We would then control access to the Mediterranean for all of the European powers. We also decided to take the Western Sahara, as that would also offer a great supply port for any jumps into the Mediterranean or across the Atlantic. And with those positions secured, it was time to press an attack into the Caribbean. Then we would have a naval port also over with our ally Colombia, who'd been faithfully buying our ships for decades. In March of 1907, the Spanish sued for peace. Despite having little impact myself in those negotiations, we decided to take Guantanamo and the Honduras as well, because that gave us exactly what we wanted in the Caribbean. Naval technology upgraded the torpedoes to 5,000 meters range, and the Emperor is still residing in a tiny little province, but he's voicing some discontent about the state of his empire. which is now ours, by the way. This is our little friends over here in Colombia who've been buying our ships, and now we have a bunch of supply ports near the Americans if we ever needed to go to war with them. The Italians were extremely pissed that the Japanese now control both exits to the Mediterranean, and so they broke their alliance. They felt betrayed. Also, the British are kind of really happy with the state of the Spanish getting pounded, and they want to be friends with us, but we are not having any more allies this campaign. We can now put more guns on the ships, which is nice. The very first Yamato 1905s are still under construction, and we're in preparation for their arrival. We're sending our oldest ships over to be the Caribbean fleet. I've built my first destroyer, or prototype destroyer, Natsu's Shio, but I'm not very happy with its performance, and we're looking towards the end of the torpedo boat's service life. Can't push any more speed out of them at the moment, and I feel like it's time to refit all of my ships just one more time before we start redesigning for the new era. We're just waiting on some more technology to come through. So the first phase was to come through and refit the heavy cruisers to have a little bit more range, a little bit more speed, and a little bit more punch. The battleships also get a similar pass, increasing them to have the expansion engines, as well as better shafts and armor. The Krupp armor really gave me some displacement to work with, so we upped the speed of all of our battleships within reason, as well as their armor where we could. This is the Kaiju class battleship that I built and managed to build one of before it became obsolete. I had access to some better engines when I designed it, and so she's got an interesting center gun arrangement. But I'm kind of annoyed that I've only got one ship available, and taking the time to refit it was kind of annoying. Because of all of our aggression, the Soviet Union is threatening us with war unless we press the attack, which would obviously put them into war. We can give them $265 million to make it go away in the short term, or we could give them all of our money. No. $530 million, my...
The Imperial war machine has been unleashed. Do not struggle against what is inevitable. All who stand in the way of our divine destiny will be swept away by the march of history. You will bow before us, or you will cease to exist.
Attack Vladivostok and erase every trace of the Soviet presence. Once this is done, the Pacific will be ours. Bring them to their knees, Commander. Make them pay for their impudence.
The dice have been thrown and we are at war with the Soviets. The first order of action is to invade Vladivostok, cutting off their access to the Pacific by taking all of those naval bases. We have set up a blockade of Gibraltar to stop the Black Sea Fleet from entering the Atlantic, and we have a blockade in the Red Sea. The first of our Yamato 1905s will lead the charge. Task Force is a little bit too large, so we have to leave the flagship, or the lead ship of the class behind, but we have enough tonnage on the way. We have 30 of our new destroyer types under construction, but for now it's time to head out and make landfall. As you can see, the Imperial Japanese Navy is a force to be reckoned with. Unfortunately, the Imperial Japanese Army is a little bit less well equipped, and the Soviets have spent a considerable amount on a new prototype weapon, something that we had never seen before. Our men were not equipped well enough to fight such a thing, but their bravery is seeing through the day. We're going to send some help to help them take back the island. The ferocity of the fighting has shocked the rest of the world, and the United States has actually stepped in to fight the Russians.
They are attacking Sakhalin Island. Commander Kenji is doing his best, but he cannot hold out for much longer. You must come to his aid and beat back the Soviet advance.
Despite horrific losses, Commander Kenji was able to jury-rig up a fleet of trucks to shatter the Russian spearhead. Our arrival was just in time, and we managed to secure the rest of Sakhalin Island, thanks to his and his men's bravery. The few remaining Russian ships in the Pacific are being decimated by our mines, and the rest of the Russians are just stuck.
Thanks to you, we are one step closer to our ultimate destiny.
The Soviets do have 65 ships in their navy. 6 of those are battleships, so we need to make sure we're ready for that fight. The Yamato class has yet to see actual fighting, but I'm sure they will give the Soviets a run for their money. We're heading up to southern Siberia, and then we will head across the map to Providinia, I think it's pronounced, probably not. Our oldest fleet in the Navy is stationed in the Caribbean, and they are having an absolute fantastic time picking on whatever remains of the Spanish Navy. There isn't much left of Spain at all, and I do plan on pressing an attack into northern Spain if I get the chance. Spain just want to fight with us for whatever reason.
Excellent work, Commander. But the Soviets are still threatening our borders. Do not let the Soviet barbarians dishonor my father.
Heads are going to roll when the Soviets lose their last access to the Pacific, which will happen very shortly. We're also pushing up into Russian territory.
We will meet again.
I believe he is aware of the punishment.
Take him out and shoot him. Get him out of my sight!
Comrade Stalin, the general is not responsible. I personally monitored his actions.
And who then would be to blame? Clearly, the general is at fault.
Niet, comrade. It was you who failed in your actions.
Is this true, Kuko?
Yes.
You disappoint me, Kukov.
You know I'm going to crush you with my boot heel soon enough. Please, accept defeat before my anger takes control of me.
These are the new Yamato-class battleships, and we have quite a few of them. The Russians have sent their battleships all the way around from the Baltic to the Pacific to fight us in a squadron of 2 battleships, sending out a fleet of our Natsushio class destroyers, which have 8 torpedoes aside. And I broke the engine on this one by accidentally putting them in reverse. That was interesting. So their division stayed behind to look after them. And we have quite a complement of destroyers to protect our new battleship line. We're going to see what kind of work we can do to the Soviet battleships. I will be interested to see what they can field. The Natsushio, interesting destroyer class. We have 3 4-inch guns.
What is this? You little vermin, eh? I will enjoy shutting you down quickly.
We've been spotted, and it seems that the Russian Admiral is a little bit brave. Sure of his skills to send just 2 battleships all the way to the Pacific to fight our home island garrison. Now, they've opened up. I'm not sure what weaponry they have, but it does have the same range as us. So we're going to assume 12 to 13-inch guns, maybe bigger. Not sure what their technology is like compared to ours. Racing the destroyers ahead. 1 in smoke, 1 not. Our broken destroyer is not repairing the engine fast enough, so we've left him behind. We'll detach them from the division so it doesn't mess up every order that we give this one. Battleship line, Yamato class 1905s. Going to be the bread and butter of our fleet, and I hopefully built them so that they will last a good 30 to 40 years with refits. But time will tell. I think 26,000 tons is a good middle point. And I really love the secondary gun layout, as well as the casemate 8 inches. We have a lot of secondaries. But hopefully that design doesn't make them too invulnerable. Destroyer Shiriatsu leading up the destroyer division. Getting them ready, dropping smoke. They are taking fire from the battleship's secondaries. And the battleships are turning away from our formation, who are racing ahead. We have dropped fish. We have access to new long-range fish. Will the enemy be able to dodge them? See them and dodge them. They don't have any screening fleet, so it's up to the ships themselves to spot the trails. All of our destroyers have multiple launch tubes, so they will have multiple opportunities to launch their fish. Turn one formation away. We don't want to run into our own torpedoes at any stage. Big hits there on the Shiratsu. She's having to turn away out of the formation. That is quite a substantial hit. I've tried to build these destroyers to be quite sturdy, but our access to technology is not fantastic at the moment. We have put the funding up, but we're sitting at average compared to the other nations. So we need to get the GDP up, and one surefire way to do that is to acquire territory. There are fish everywhere. Not the best angle, and they're not very fast, but if we throw enough, it won't matter. You can't dodge everything. Looks like we're going to take one in the starboard rear. 2. This battleship's taking major damage to its stern. We've had 4 hits so far. 5th hit. And as I said, you can't dodge them all. Ha 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 ha. And then obviously they'll pass through and hopefully have an opportunity to hit the other battleship. Battleship line also taking fire on the damaged warship. Couple of duds, big hit there with the 13-inch, another hit with the torpedo. 9 hits in total. And the destroyers continue to lay their deadly arsenal.
I don't know what happened. Oleg is surely to blame for this.
The Russians definitely got complacent. I'd love to see the look on his face. What is this? I thought we were going to have a slugging match. Nope. You come to our waters, you fight our way. The sinking battleship continuing to take torpedoes, which were already on the way. More are being dropped by the formation. These battleships are designed to punch down the center. They have equal amount of secondary arcs, so the front has like 10 8-inch guns all the way around the ship. and I want to use them as a battering ram. The second Russian battleship is in big trouble. He's already flooding, taking big hits from our 13-inch main caliber guns. The 8-inch guns, a fury of 8-inch guns, as well as torpedoes from every angle. And this is how I want to fight our wars. This is how we're going to win the campaign. If we do, ooh, we're going to hit our own torpedo. Slow down. Bit of a dangerous launch there. Someone would have been court-martialed if that had have landed.
This time you win. I suggest you do not celebrate quite yet. For I promise you, Moscow will be back.
I don't think they'll be back. So my evil plan worked. The Black Sea Fleet, trying to scramble to the Pacific, has been blocked in the Red Sea, and it also can't get out through the Straits of Gibraltar. So they are neutered, and we're going to close the noose. The fleet blockading at Gibraltar is actually going to move to assist the land invasion of northern Spain, and we may be able to get 2 major ports and finish off the Spanish. Our oldest fleet, including the old Kumano class battleships, are just causing havoc in the Caribbean, and the storms are just making them terrors. The Spanish, they can't build any more ships, I don't think, and if they can, they have to be light. Oh, we've got a flash fire. Yamashiro setting off the magazines on that light cruiser. All the turrets are popping off. Crazy. Take that, speakers. Final Spanish ship will be going to the bottom. Oh, it seems one of my auxiliary fleets on the way to blockade a port in northern Spain has been attacked by the Soviet Black Sea Fleet, I think they are. No, they're the Baltic. They're from the Baltic. And we are on low fuel. I should have stopped in at Cadets. I just wanted to get these torpedo boats here. I had planned on scrapping all of the torpedo boats soon, but they were just there just in case while we wait for the next gen of destroyers to be built. My early gen destroyers are here as well, and some of those have low fuel. And I think I have a Gen 2 destroyer. I can't tell. I wish it told you your ship class. That's okay. We've got a bit of a fight on our hands, but at least we have one of our new 1905 battleships. I have no idea how well our torpedo boats are going to go against the Soviets. I did refit them a couple of years ago. They have been shooting at us from out of line of sight as well, which really concerns me. So Akagi has taken damage before we even spotted our foe. But I didn't want to send the torpedo boats out on their own with such low fuel and low speed. And I don't even think we were going to be able to get in range. Like, accurate range. Fortunately, our battleship Akagi is able to run at full steam, so we can keep her safe. But these guys feel like sitting ducks. At 17 knots, a sail ship could go faster. And we have enough torpedoes to do some damage. But I need to be in effective range. At least we'll bring in at different angles and try and get some torpedoes through that formation. It looks like there's a lot of smoke-laying ships in the background. More sighted. I have a feeling we might lose a few lives today. What can you do? Kiji's taking a hit, on fire and flooding. We're going to have to dump the fish. We have 8 in total. Let's see how long it takes them before they start to evade. doesn't look like they're evading yet. I have seen some comments saying that the enemies see your torpedoes as soon as you drop them. So I will experiment and see if we can trick that or take advantage of their detection. This guy looks like he's evading now, which was pretty close and a bit too late to avoid, I think. Yeah, we've hit there with 2, 3, 4. Maybe he's just too slow to evade as well. Big heavy cruiser running at almost no speed. Well, I guess we'll keep that going. If we can get that effect from every boat, we'll win this fight. I don't like our chances on hitting the evasive ships at this range with torpedoes. It'll have to be sort of point blank. But we'll try, because anything that misses will hit the guys behind. So sometimes choosing our target based on where it'll flow through if it misses is also a consideration. Shirakami's laying all her fish. Kagi's at a nice safe range, or so we hope. We'll keep the destroyers there as a more close range screen. Some of the destroyers are running slow as well. So, like I said in one of my previous battles, I will have to take into consideration range when building a navy that needs to be everywhere. We're not just defending our home waters anymore. Unless I can have enough supply ports to, you know, leapfrog the ships to their destinations. Oh, look at that. So far we've had 5 hits. Will we get more? Seems like a sure thing. We've had a few duds. Irrespective of the duds, there is massive damage to that cruiser. Or is it a battleship? Flash firing. Magazine. Guess we'll choose new targets. 11 hits so far with the torpedoes. This is great. Uh-oh, we've laid some through our own formation, so we need to break them up and get them out of the way. Fortunately, one's exploded early. That makes it a bit safer for us. Alright. Sealer has sunk due to extensive fire caused by torpedo explosions. More hits there on the same ship as she goes down, breaking her into a million pieces. Kichi's lost her bridge. Shikarmi, come on, throw something out there. You're out of ammo. This one's still got fish left. Launch them. And then turn away. That's a dangerous amount of torpedoes close range, and she has to contend with some coming from her starboard stern. She's in trouble. She'll be able to dodge that one, but that may put her in a bad position for the rest of them coming. Depending on how good her rudder is. Nice widespread there on that cruiser. Looks like there are torpedoes ahead and astern of her, which is great. Doesn't leave her many options to dodge. So you want accuracy through volume. 4 major hits on the heavy cruiser. She is done for. So what I thought would be a concerning fight so far has turned out to be quite impressive display from our torpedoes. They have a little bit of extra speed now. Unfortunately, my Gen 1 destroyers have not been refit. We were too concerned with bringing out the next generation of destroyers, as well as building 30 Yamato 1905s. That's the goal. 6 formations of 5 or 5 of 6. Whatever we need to deal with. The Russians have been caught on the back foot. But our torpedo boats are now spent. There are a few with some ammo remaining, but we will need to marshal them up together. Surprised we didn't take more hits, despite our slow speed. And Akagi's having a field day. 21 hits, 6,000 damage with her main guns. The goal here is to have 8 guns front and back. But at the moment, displacement doesn't let us do that. There are the secondaries. Look at them. Love that stacked arrangement. Trying to protect the funnels somewhat. I'm not sure how vulnerable that will make the ship, having those raised secondaries. Just after I started construction, we unlocked new engine types too, and that was quite frustrating. So I kind of can refit them instantly, and I might do that. See how much weight we save adding Krupp armor as well as the new expansion engines. But for now, look at that. Great. Let me know what you think about the ship. Is that a standard Ultimate Admiral design, or is that something unique? Who knows? Some of the AI designs are pretty eclectic, so I'm interested to see what you guys think. Alright, our destroyer's on low fuel. They also have the disadvantage of very low range torpedoes. I neglected to refit these guys, and now I'm going to pay the price for that. They will probably perform worse than the torpedo boats. But it does look like the Russians are trying to reform into some semblance of a formation. We've got another battleship in the background. Hamikaze is in trouble. That cruiser will easily outrun her. So those torpedoes will be useless. Battleship Akagi, I don't know why you're attached to the destroyer formation. Let's move them through the center. Let's be ballsy with the battleship. Yeah, we're not going to get into range and she's going to get shot down. I do like that that is a thing. That you could build the best ship ever, but if it's got 0 range and you try and send it across an ocean, it's going to be severely disadvantaged. I think we got the fish away. No, we didn't. These guys are pretty damaged. They're out of ammo. We'll pull them away. We've managed to sink one of the light cruisers. Was that hit by Akagi, I believe it was. She's going for the AP strikes against the battleship. Oh, big hits! Below the fore turret on the Russian battleship. 13-inch AP round. Didn't appear to do much damage, but it looked glorious. Casemate secondaries are engaging the light cruiser behind. I do like that your ships are capable of dealing with decentralized fire as well. Little touches that make it more bearable. Oh, the poor Inoki. Getting shattered by big hits as she tries to turn through her own smoke. It looks like she's done. Oh, destroyed the torpedoes. Oh well. They were really destined for the scrap heap, but I would have hoped to pull the crew off before they went there. Jeez. Now that light cruiser is going to the bottom. Akagi has really just had free reign of the gunnery. No one's really put any damage to her outside of her initial detection at the start of the battle. Torpedo boats getting off their torpedoes, doing what they do best. Those cruisers don't look like they're responding to them yet. I mean, if they do detect them as soon as you drop them, no matter where you drop them, that kind of breaks the game for me. So we'll see. I've 24 hits this match. I'm pretty happy with those statistics. We probably dropped over 100 torpedoes. Another 2 hits there, great. 40-something thousand damage in total. The battleship is letting my destroyers get close. Don't know if that's wise, but he may be trying to get to Akagi. No, he's not. Even his main guns are focused on this destroyer, who he's now let get into range. So we're going to try some high-angle torpedoes. Very good chance most will be duds. Easy rudder flip and he can get out of the way. But it's better than nothing. We'll turn around and try and get the other side off. These ships have 4 aside, which is a huge disadvantage when you're so slow. You want to be fast and maneuverable if you have a double-sided torpedoes. We're going to make hits. He's tried to turn away, but that just made the angle even better. 1300 damage. Odaki very pleased with her result, but now she needs to try and get away as she drops her final fish. And we need to make sure that Hamikaze doesn't shoot her with her own torpedoes. That one was a dud. But the others in the spread were not. And we have detonated the ammunition inside the turret. And as I foresaw, I should have turned off the torpedoes. I knew that was going to happen. So someone is getting court-martialed. Oh, fortunately, the bridge on that torpedo, that destroyer, is blown off, so no one was actually in control. And one final torpedo spread as the coup de grace to the Russian battleship. Total of 35 torpedo hits for the battle. We still have a few more ships to kill. I think we're out of torpedo-armed boats now. Battleship Akagi. She's taken a few scratches, but she's looking fantastic. Finally getting to fire her guns in anger. We do need to upgrade our command and control research so we can fit more into a squadron. At the moment, I can't fit destroyers and 5 in a squadron. Hear them roar. Excellent. For all intents and purposes, the Russians are on the run. What was an auxiliary fleet has managed to batter the battleships of the Russian fleet. Akagi's trying to chase them down. I'm Commander Tyrael. Those are 13-inch armor-piercing rounds. If you'd like to see more, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, leave me a comment. Tell me what you're enjoying most about this series. I'll keep shooting the Russians. Until next time, Commander Tyrael out.